Hi there, my name is FixFox, and welcome back to Factorio. Folks, I love Factorio, and I love that if you Google Factorio tutorial level 5, I am the first search that pops up. That makes me pretty happy. And unfortunately, I haven't done a lot of Factorio recently. I do a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic. That's typically what I do. But today, we're going to be starting off on a new Deathworld run, and we're also going to be doing the Lazy Bastard. So, of course, Deathworld, we're going to have a lot of biters that we have to chew through, and we're also going to have the Lazy Bastard run where we cannot use more than 111 items handcrafted. So of course the early game is kind of what you would expect. You're going to want to try and get some early smelting up. You're going to want to use your resource patches effectively, but unlike a traditional run, we are not going to try and smash through our production quotas. We are going to do our very best to manage a few things. Number one, resources. Because it's going to take us a little bit longer to get started, we're going to want to make sure that we are very precise with our resources. Number two, because we're doing the Lazy Bastard run, we're going to want to be very careful about what we do or what we do not build. And third of all, we're going to want to make sure that we manage our pollution cloud, because if the pollution cloud gets too big, we're going to have a really bad time. So starting off, I'm literally doing hand mining to help me focus on just keeping the pollution cloud low and making sure I don't run into that 111 item cap. Currently, we have got one thing purchased here, and I'm being very careful as I'm collecting whatever rocks and trees I possibly can. Even when we're setting up this power, it's going to be such a very small sort of early game situation. It's going to be one power pole that you craft because, well, you get two because you have to craft at least one and you get two for every craft. But then as we get into the lab, literally we have to only use less than 111 items there to get all the way into basic assembling. So we've already gotten ourselves up to 47. That just gives us basic power, and then we're up to 72 once we get into the science with the science lab, and then we can start crafting this. Folks, I can tell you right now that we are going to meet our goal. We're going to come in at under 111 items per second. I'm going to keep the little tracker in the upper left corner going the entire time just to make sure that nothing too bad happens. Just make sure that you and I know that we are making this achievement happen regardless. Now, why the combination of Deathworld and Lazy Bastard run? I feel very strongly that this is going to force you, unlike in other Lazy Bastard runs, to make sure that you don't, in the heat of the moment in a Deathworld, do something that you're going to regret. And to make sure that we don't do something that we regret, we're going to literally unbind the craft key. I'm left clicking here. I cannot craft anything unless it's in an assembler from this point on. So 102 out of 111 items per second. In the event that I get stuck on a kilo or something crazy, and on a kilo I'm not able to survive without crafting one or two things, I'm going to save my remaining crafts for that exact moment. Literally, we are saving until that moment. Meanwhile, we're really going to be working off of this one assembler, and you got to get all the prerequisite materials in there, and so it's going to be bouncing back and forth to just get what we need. Resources are going to be fairly tough to come by. I do keep, for the first quarter of this playthrough, we keep all of our resources in the bottom there on the quick bar so that we can kind of see, oh, FixFox has 25 of these iron plates, 7 of these copper plates, etc. But in general, it is very much trying to make sure that we have all the resources that we need, and we need to try to think ahead until we can get up to a basic belt sort of mall system. Now, even now, we are probably about 40 minutes into this playthrough, and only now are we starting to get up our second little bits of mining. You're saying, FixFox, it took you 40 minutes to get this long? Well, you know, I mean, 20 to 40 minutes. It's somewhere in that range, I would say, for sure. And the problem is that, yeah, we're trying to keep the pollution small, but we don't even have the ability to prevent ourselves from running back and forth from our main power supply until this exact moment. So we've got a few of our assemblers, we've got a few of the power poles, and we're just starting to make things work piece by piece, play by play. We're not going to stay on burner tech for too long. I typically don't like burner tech in general because that just requires you to do a lot of hand feeding, and that always seems suboptimal to me. So as much as I can in any playthrough I do, I typically try to bypass the burner playthroughs. I'll typically try and get into full electric whenever we can, but I can tell you we're going to be operating off of one boiler and 2 steam engines for an awful long time with our initial power consumption. So here you can see that we are starting to make sure that we have a little bit of everything else we need. We got a little bit of coal being produced at the top. I guess that as many rocks as we've been able to find on the ground, that we have kind of run out of coal that is easily accessible. We're starting to use our 3 assemblers here. Looks like we have 5 total, 2 in our hands, 3 on the ground. We're using those to sort of get started with some of the basic production that we know that we're going to need. Copper wire is always going to be important. Gears, there's no such thing as too many gears. And then early tech, my first real major purchase, I am going to go for logistics. It is Deathworld, but because we didn't start in the desert, it seems to me that it'll be nice to be able to move around with some of the basic splitters and the undergrounds. A little bit of that extra logistical flexibility tends to go pretty well for me. Okay, I can already tell you that this is bothering the ever-living goodness out of me. Being on this mix of burner tech and electric just doesn't really make me too happy. So in this early game, I'm trying to keep, again, pollution really low. I'm happy that we started off in this forest so we can chew up a lot of the pollution clouds. But in general, I'm trying to make sure that we have just enough of a smelting array that we can propel ourselves into early game without overbuilding it. And so it's going to start off very small, very humbly. And in fact, I think that for the entirety of this playthrough, we're not going to make a huge smelting array or a smelting stack. Everything we do is going to be probably less than 20 smelters, I would say. Whether it is 20 stone furnaces or if it's 20 of the steel furnaces, I'm pretty sure that we're going to be doing 20 or less. Now, we're going to see that in this playthrough, I do something that I absolutely that bothers me to no end, and that is that I am not setting myself up for the future. I say in the live playthrough that is coming in the next video that we did on Twitch that there's many a time where I am making decisions because I know that future Fix Fox is going to have to deal with it. Folks, I got to tell you, that is not the way that I like to play my playthroughs. I like to invest in a lot of early game infrastructure so that way my mid game goes so much better. And the more I invest in the early game, the better things go in the late game. Still, there's always going to be a few of these normal things that you would expect in any kind of good Factorio run. You're going to want to automate stuff as opposed to just put things into the boxes rather than just manually hand drag stuff. So we are doing a pretty good job of that just at this current juncture. Things are, as far as automation, we're kind of automating here. We're still adding stuff to assemblers. That's going to be problematic for a while, but it's not going to take too long. Not going to take too long at all before we're able to move into the next stage where we actually start to really automate stuff. So here we're going on into radars, we're going into steel, we're going into green. There's a lot of different tech that we do want to have, and I'm already starting to worry about the biters. Folks, on a Deathworld run, if this was the desert, we would already be instantly under attack. I got to tell you, full disclosure, I think that we actually opted into a really nice seed here to play on. I don't think that we're going to have too many biter issues. So your mileage may vary. If you play this game yourself and if you play on a Deathworld run, you might run into some issues that I actually did not, just because I have so many trees here and they're keeping me so very safe. But once we actually have the biters sniff that pollution, if we don't have the requisite materials or if we don't have the requisite technology in order to defeat them, we're going to have not just a kind of a bad time, we're going to have a really bad time. So we are just slowly expanding, slowly getting better piece by piece, and eventually we're going to be able to wage war on these biters. I can tell you right now, I'm thinking to myself, do I want to use gun turrets to try to push this little base here? I'm thinking to myself, is it even possible? Am I able to? I'm pretty sure. In fact, I can already guarantee you that I've absolutely saved at this point, and I'm just saying to myself, look, we got to test our limits. Are we capable of actually fighting this base? And folks, in case you were wondering if this was actually a Deathworld run, yeah, to this point, we haven't had too many issues, but yeah, clearly we need to tech up just a little bit if we're going to do a little bit better. Maybe somebody that is better at pushing with turrets than I would do quite a bit better, but I never had to get good at pushing with turrets. I always just tend to go straight for the tank or a car, and once I get those things go quite a bit better. Okay, so now we're looking at green tech, we're looking at steel. We got still a lot to be done, but whoa, since the biters are quickly upon us, this means that our pollution cloud has absolutely hit us. This is about 46 minutes into this game here. Yeah, 46 to 50 minutes or so. Yeah, my time frames are completely not correct, but that just means that we are officially in the ballpark of needing to be teched up, ready to go, and just deal with whatever enemies might come our way. So we are officially getting on into the time where I'm saying to myself, look, if we're going to be doing science right now at all, we need to be doing this in an actual automated way. Hand feeding stuff is just not going to do it. And so we're preparing by getting lots and lots of belts. Folks, we have 210 belts currently. I've just been slowly stashing those away. It's taken a lot of our typical resources. We do have several hundred excess iron plates currently at the moment. It's a little bit difficult to spend those at the current juncture, but we do have the excess materials, and we have turned those into tons of belts. And now we were just seeing, as you saw a second ago, turning those into lots of these assemblers, and also into our inserters. Those things are, of course, the prerequisite for any good building, folks. You might notice as we're going through this early game base building situation here, I'm a big fan of the content creator Nilaus on YouTube. Big fan of Nilaus, always a fan of Nilaus and all the wonderful things he does. So you will notice that my early base game, my building to get you into red and green science, it typically always revolves around the basic structure of at least one, typically two of the green chip makers, about 2 to 5 of the gear wheels, and then just the basic base building situations that you need. Of course, belts, undergrounds, inserters, etc., etc. And then it's not really a true bus design, but you are able to have your essential technology and your essential items for continued base building created in the first little bit here. So again, if this is looking familiar to you, that just means that you are a high quality individual that understands the value of some of the things that Nilaus has taught you. I've said in other videos that I really do enjoy that if somebody has made a good looking wheel out there, we can always reinvent the wheel if we so desire, but if there's already a good looking wheel, I see no reason that we ought to reinvent that. So we've got our copper production hooked up here. We've got a long line for iron that's going to be popping out. Now we're going to start getting these gears onto one single belt, and on the other side of that belt is going to be the green chip. So we've got a lot of the prerequisite materials necessary to make a whole lot of everything that we're going to need here. So far, not so bad. So far, I'm okay with all this. But again, meanwhile, the entire time I'm thinking to myself, I got to get tech, I've got to get science, so that way I can actually end up defeating these biters. By the way, here I end up limiting my chests, and then I also end up using wires to make sure that I don't oversaturate these boxes. In the early game, you really don't need 50 undergrounds. You probably need somewhere between like 10 and 20 or something like that, but it's a little bit of like a redundancy, because there has been many a game that I've played where I absolutely ruined myself because somebody, and I'm not going to say who, but somebody built way too much of items that I simply did not need. So folks, we've got belts being produced, we've got assemblers, we've got green circuits, we got gears, and we are going to put some of these things into a box in a little bit, but for now we're just pulling stuff off. And right now, currently, we're getting into red science. This belt is always critical for me right here, because this is going to be our mix between our copper and also our gears. That's going to get us into the red science. Very critically important. The amount of science that's locked behind just simply red tech is really, really surprising. So between the automation and the logistics science packs, we can do an awful lot just with this early base game structure. So this is not taking me a really, really long time. I'm always really amazed at the people that do speedrunning for Factorio, but it takes a little bit of time, but still, we do what we can with the time that we have. And I tend to find that it's very, very worth it for the small amount of effort that needs to be put into it. The alternative of running around and handcrafting things, which of course we don't have that luxury in this game, is just not the best. By the way, did you notice that we used pipes to cover up some of our turrets? Thankfully, if we get a chance to look at the mini map in a little bit, we're going to be able to see that I've got the 2 big biter bases on my western front here, and I've got a good battery of turrets that are preventing death and destruction on that end. But on the eastern front, I don't have any biter bases that are really threatening my power or my coal production, and so it doesn't hurt my feelings too bad to just know that currently, hey, I've got a little bit of help. My turrets are literally being protected by pipes. Pipes have about 250 less hit points than a single wall section does, but still, it gets the job done. It gets the job done. The biter attacks are starting to become not worrisome, but they are definitely noticeable, and that's concerning. And so I'm thinking to myself, look, I've got my green science now hooked up. I've got my red science. I do want to get some additional science in here. I'm going to adjust those labs in a little bit, but if we're getting into tech, let's get into the engine and let's get into the car, because military science 2, while it does unlock things like, nicer grenades and stuff like that, it's not actually going to help me win the day so easily, folks. The technological leap from going to walking around into operating with a car is massive. So in order to make that happen, we are going to need to get ourselves some basic steel production. It is reasonable to say that I should be building to scale. I should be building to late game scale in how much steel I'm going to need. And I'll tell you right now that 4 to 8 of these smelters just for steel, this is not going to last you any amount of time. But again, I keep telling myself, well, that's going to be a problem for future Fix Fox. Right now, we might not even make it into the mid game if I take too much time to make too much stuff. I'm operating under some limited time constraints here. Even just a trickle of resources is still going to be valuable for me. And so we're starting to get, with this steel, we can tell that our engines have already been completed. We're going to be making some underground pipes here, regular pipes, and then the pipes are going to be feeding directly into the engine making. We're going to automate our engine making, and that's going to be pretty nice for us because, again, it's going to be good for cars, it's going to be good for pumps, it's going to be good for tanks, it's going to be good for all manner of things, not to mention eventually these engine parts are going to be useful for blue chemical science. And so we're not going to get into blue chemical science this video, but by the time we get into blue chemical science, having a nice little surplus of the engines will be useful. Can you tell that the biters are starting to be a bit of a problem? We are withstanding their blows. This is like Rocky. And I'm just going the distance right now. I'm taking all the hits. I'm not necessarily getting ahead. I'm not really winning, but I'm buying myself enough time that I can actually get some reasonable, valuable military tech on the way. And that's going to include the yellow ammo. It's also going to include these grenades. So this tech is going to start really spelling the end for these biters. The question that I'm going to have for you is this, folks: will it be enough? Will what I end up putting together be enough, or am I going to get overwhelmed by the biters? Because if the biters are coming in so big of numbers as we've already seen, there is a lot of cause for concern. It's reasonable to say that the biters are going to be coming my way pretty quickly. But this is our first test with the grenade. I mean, you know, it's amazing how much value you can get out of one single grenade. At least that one single grenade is going to last until the biters do evolve. So right now we're just still operating off of tier 1 biters. When we get into medium biters or spitters or medium spitters, heaven forbid, that's when we're going to really have a major problem. But for now, one single grenade is going to kill an entire swath. Any kind of biter it touches, it will kill it. But again, the question is going to be, how long exactly will that last? Because I've seen how big the biter swarms have been getting, I actually have started at this point to going up into the base and just like kind of provoking, I would suppose you would say, poking at the base and trying to prevent them from getting into a big death ball. I'm trying to deal with them when it's a small little ball of biters as opposed to a big ball. Now, at this point, we got lots of ammo. I'm just collecting all the ammo and the turrets and everything else I'm going to need. We have a car. Let's go do, for the first time, a little bit of combat against these biters. And I'm not going to show the entire base going down to the ground, but I'm going to show just enough so that way you know that we have a little bit of a good understanding about what to do. And there it is. Immediately, that many biters. If I was trying to do this on foot, I would have to stand and deliver. At this point with the car, at least I can kind of run around in a circle, and my goal is to just don't take a lot of damage, right? You got plenty of HP on the car. It's 450 HP for every car you have. That's quite a bit of punishment, but try to take out, number one, all of the worms. Try to take out whatever easy biter spawners you possibly can. Yep. Take out the easy ones first, and then just keep driving around in a circle. And if you do that for long enough, eventually you'll get to the point where you will survive. Now, what's the biggest thing that's going to kill any kind of Factorio run if you are going for a deathless run? Obviously running into rocks. That's going to be maybe the first thing. Folks, big moment here. We are getting into oil production. Now, you can see how big our poison cloud is. We still have one base that we're dealing with, but we found one little crude oil patch to the north, and that's going to have to do it. Folks, I have played Deathworld in the desert, and it's about my least favorite thing in the world. But the moment you're able to get any amount of oil so that way you can get any amount of flamethrower track, that is when you truly feel safe for the first time in these playthroughs. Now, it's not gonna be a lot of oil if we're doing just one single pump jack, but that is going to be pretty much our next goal. And then that's going to get us into chemical science. And at some point we're going to have to make a decision. Do we go into nuclear? Do we try to stay ahead of the biters in the arms race by getting into nuclear bombs? Or, I mean, are we going to try to go? I mean, what do we do? What do we do here? The thing is folks, I've never done a Deathworld run here in Space Age. I've only done it in base game files, and this of course is Space Age, so with some of the tech being locked behind some bigger planets and stuff like that, it is going to be just a tiny bit of a tough decision to figure out what's going to make the best sense for Fix Fox here. Well, as it stands though, currently with only small biters that we have to deal with, yeah, we are getting through these bases. It does take quite a bit of time, but there's going to be a second base here to the west that's going to fall, and we're going to kind of fast forward through that in just a second or two. And then this is going to be the base here to the south, and the base to the south gave me not many more issues, but it was about this time that we realized, oh my gosh, there are medium biters here. And instantly the amount of stress that comes with medium biters is massive, because they will take multiple grenades. I think that they take 3 full grenades in order to take down, and that's just more than I can really handle. So we're going to try and stay alive, wall ourselves in, if you will. If you ever saw the movie Starship Troopers, this is us just hiding behind this wall, and somebody else can go be the brave person that dies for democracy. But right now, we're just trying to stay out of it. We will get through these bases, these initial bases, but it slows us down. It takes time, and the more biters you kill and the more bases you kill, the more the evolution of the biters kicks up. So we actually, believe it or not, need to kill biters because we have to be able to protect our land, and it's better than just building defenses. But the more enemy bases we kill and the more enemies we kill, the worse off we are going to be. Folks, I've gotten myself into the big electronic poles. I've got pump jacks already researched. I've got one handy for this exact project. It's not going to be pretty, but if we defend this one point, we are eventually going to stay alive and get some amount of oil. Getting this back is always a little bit of a struggle, because you say to yourself, well, the car should drive straight. There are modifications out there if you're interested in trying to make your vehicles snap to a grid, so you can drive horizontal or vertical without, you know, running into your own electronic power poles. But the long and short of what I'm trying to get to you here is that we are eventually going to get the oil, the precious oil, back home, and we're going to get these oil refineries, and we're going to get the chemical plants. And since we have pretty much a little bit of everything else, we've already got decent coal, we've got decent stone production, we've got okay iron, we got okay copper. It's just the start, just so that way we know, hey, we can start to process this. We can get into flammables, so that way we can get into flamethrower tech. That's going to be a pretty massive deal once we can get there. I do want to make this quite a bit bigger, by the way. And the reason being is because I do want to make sure that I put down the flamethrower turrets here. It's going to be a lot of back and forth, and I'm going to cut out much of the back and forth between home and here and home and here. But I do have to make sure I have enough resources to actually build the flamethrower turrets that I want to have, just the automated defenses, not my handheld flamethrower, but the major defenses. I do want to make sure that I get those back and forth. It'll take a little bit of time, but we will eventually get there. And so I say to myself, well, in the meantime, we might as well get another bit of science up. Folks, I highly encourage you to not do what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. The fact that we are so closely building actually gives me anxiety. Like, again, I keep saying, Fix Fox, this is going to be a problem for future Fix Fox. Don't worry about it. But really, I do worry about this. And eventually, not too far in the distant future, we are going to be able to get all of this automated. Right now, we're just bringing the stone bricks over so that we can get wall sections, grenades, and red ammo over to the black science. We're going to adjust our labs right now, just knowing that we have to move in for the future. Right now, those labs were being supplied by one single belt with red and green. We're going to need to add black, and basically as soon as we add chemical science, we're going to need to do quite a bit more there. So for now, a little bit of an adjustment here is going to make things go quite a bit better for me. It's not going to be able to go labs too deep, but at least we're going to be able to go 1 deep. And as you can see, the labs are turning back on. Advanced material processing is going up, and we are cooking with gas. Excellent. Excellent. Meanwhile, so one thing that we're not getting a real good sense of in this certain playthrough, as we are adding light all throughout my base is the amount of times I am specifically looking ahead to try to make sure that I don't run out of materials. Right now, you can see that I'm actually having to build pipes because I didn't pick up enough pipes, but it's a constant battle to make sure that I have enough green circuits and gears and just raw resources in my hand to make sure that we don't run out of stuff. Because if we do run out of stuff, like we ran out of stuff up here with the steel, then you're just not going to have the resources you need. Oh, and by the way, while we're up here in the north to the very, very, very far south, what are you doing? Excuse you? Are you really going to cause me this much grief? Thankfully, it was exactly one biter. If it was two biters, I might have, you know, I might have actually had to rush back a little bit quicker. As it was one biter, that seemed to me to be not too bad of a deal. But here with this trifecta sort of situation, we're going to have these 3 permanent defensive structures for the oil. That's going to give us enough time to say, all right, we're leaving this alone. It's going to be infinitely supplied so long as that pump jack is working. The oil should be flowing freely. Let's repair our car as we keep messing stuff up. And let's finally put an end to this one little biter. This guy got like 5 belts, 1 inserter, and I think he got 1 full smelter. So don't tell me that 1 biter can't do a lot of harm for you. So folks, this is really going to be it. This is the base as it currently stands. This is probably about 2 hours in, right? We got plenty of power, right? We're ready to scale for that. We've got ourselves all the way up to oil. We have avoided the majority of major biter offenses, in large part because of the forests and the pollution soaking there. But this is fun, and we are going to be ready for the next one in the future. I'll see you there. Bye now.